Hello and welcome to the Simply Business Interview Podcast. I'm the host, John Jennings. And I believe that most business owners are working way too hard for much too little. And one of the issues is that we over complexify things. And I believe that the answers are almost always within us or within our reach. So I like to say I'm a simple man with simple ideas. And so welcome to Simply Business. And today I'm joined by David Cooper, who has the title of COO of True Transport, but he's a man with multiple hats. I'm sure we're going to hear more about that. He's, I guess, you might be one of those folks we would call a serial entrepreneur, and looking forward to hearing more of his story. I know you're going to be fascinated from what I've already heard so far. We're going to have a great conversation here. So, David, thanks for joining us. Why don't you first just start us off by giving us a little background about yourself, and then we'll jump into some other questions.
Yeah, absolutely, John. Thanks again for having me. Now, again, my name is David Cooper. I am the COO of True Transport. True Transport is a FedEx TSP, or transportation service provider. We got into that game. My brother and I, he actually owns that company about 7 years ago. Yeah, we have been, to your point, kind of serial entrepreneurs. We started as a lawn and landscape company in fifth grade and grew it up and sold it and got into trucking of all things, kind of out of nowhere. He was a loan officer for a bank here locally and had another FedEx contractor come to him for truck loans. And we kind of saw the numbers and decided to dabble our toes into that, and then turned it into about a 70-80 truck operation over a couple of years, and actually grew it to where it's more than just True Transport. I've got my own company, Lehigh Expediters, that also runs some trucks with FedEx, and we've got some other partners on some other businesses that we run their operations too. So yeah, it's been a fun run. It's gotten us into a lot of different markets, into a lot of different games, and just opened a lot of doors to us over the years.
Yeah, so I usually ask the same question, but I'm going to ask it a little different for you because you've already kind of told us that why you got into the trucking business. You saw the numbers and you went, hey, but why do you think you and your brother are wired different? So many people, like me, was raised, oh, you go to school and you go to college and you get a job and you go work for somebody. My dad was a government employee, so I mean that was how I was raised. And then I started getting that entrepreneurial bug, but it didn't come at a young age necessarily. Um, this seems like it, you said fifth grade. So this has been in your DNA for forever. So why do you think that is?
Well, honestly, I'm not sure. My parents, my dad's been a financial advisor his whole life, worked for some of the bigger names in the industry with that, and just retired here recently. My mom was lifelong school teacher, taught at the Catholic school that we went to growing up. Um, you know, at a very, I guess my brother, when he first got his license, he started working for another lawn and landscape company, a guy that was a teacher at the high school that he went to, that I eventually went to. So we kind of worked for him a couple of days a week, and he kind of started us off doing it on the other side. And really, I think he was handing us the scraps that he didn't want to do. Is probably the less profitable yards to mow, but it was stuff that that we could manage. Um, but that just kind of instilled that to us. It saw what you could do when you owned your own operation, right? Making decisions and changing just small things and seeing how it impacts the bottom line. And when you're 16, 17 years old, by the time we were getting out of it, when you could, change a fuel filter or change something on a truck that was so small, but it would impact you at $5,000 at the end of the year. It's, crazy money for a 17-year-old.
Mhm.
But when I got out of that, went through college, went into the somewhat of a corporate world, I guess. I went through turf school and worked on some big high end golf courses in the South.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so kind of way different. The lawn and landscape stuck with me. I really liked working outside. But I got into that game, and it's like I saw where I could make improvements. And at the end of the day, it's like the people above me were like, "No, we're just going to keep doing it the way that we were."
Hmm.
And that just didn't sit well with me, and it never really has. I have always found myself, and my brother's the same way. We can see different ways that the puzzle pieces should go together than what most people do. And when you can find efficiencies and see that, it's hard to work in an environment where you aren't allowed to do that. So we always liked owning our own thing and doing it our own way, I guess.
Yeah. So it was definitely that dose of freedom that everybody dreams of.
Yeah.
There's a statistic, and I'm always quoting statistics that I don't really remember exactly. So I guess I'm just admitting that I'm making this up to a certain degree, but it's something like around like 75, 80% of people want to be entrepreneurs, but it's only about like 10% or though that actually try it. So
I couldn't
you're
agree more. And actually, so that right, I couldn't agree. Like that's what jumped out to us whenever we got into this game. And right, we're young. I'm 35 years old. We've been doing it for a little bit. We've been FedEx for 7 years, but people have always been amazed by that, and they've come to us and said, "I've always wanted to do something like this. How'd you do it?" Right? We didn't have a whole lot to start, and I think that's where this FedEx model a lot of people gravitate towards, is that it doesn't take a big capital investment to turn around and get a large company going. And so we had people coming to us, and that's what kind of got me into the coaching consulting role. We helped, it was at first it was friends and family. We were helping become TSPs doing what we were doing. Really rewarding doing that. I still find a lot of joy still doing that kind of in a bigger way now.
Sure. Absolutely. So what's been the biggest surprise, that unexpected thing that's hit you as a business owner? What would you say?
Um, I think a lot of times since I've been in business, it's you got to be flexible and you got to be willing to pivot when things aren't going right. That's why I was gravitated towards the title of your book. It's like, with the ugly babies, it's like knowing when your baby's ugly and knowing when it's okay, we got to find a different plan and do something different. Um, it's probably makes it very difficult to work with my brother and I, because we will drop what we're doing and go a completely different direction in a big way in a hurry, if we see the value in it and we think that it's the right move to make. Getting our team to buy in on that and to be able to change directions and go from one way to the other pretty quickly has been a big challenge over the years. Most
A
of the
little virtual whiplash on their part?
yeah, a little bit. But I think we've hired right. We've hired people that meet our core values. We started doing EOS a couple of years ago, and that was a big thing with making sure that employees kind of meet the same values that we do, and are willing to adapt to that. Right? We ask people flat out if change will be anything. Recently with some stuff we're doing. I've taken my CFO and our basically our head of IT, that we're doing, running the back office stuff for everything with our companies. And I've said, hey, we've got a big opportunity here with FedEx to do a lot of education and a lot of training. And I need to get everything that's in your all's head online. And so they've pivoted completely. We hired a outside firm to take over our books, and my CFO is spending the majority of his day creating a online how-to playbook for being a FedEx contractor. We're putting it on with some of the stuff we're doing. So it's getting guys to buy in, having that team around you. It makes coming to work fun every day. It took a while to build that and define that. It's to have that team around us.
And that's a pretty significant business model difference. I mean, you got trucking, which we all understand that. We all get FedEx deliveries every day, just about. But coaching and training on it, I mean, that's a completely different business model.
Yeah. Well, what it's been is, I guess as an entrepreneur, we always try to squeeze every penny we can out of everything, right?
Yeah.
We found in this space, there's a lot of people that, to your point, they want to be entrepreneurs. They want to be FedEx contractors. There's, doctors and lawyers and, surgeons and just guys with capital that can find a FedEx route. There's listings out there all over the place on Biz Buy Sell for them. But it's not a, we say it all the time, it's not a Chick-fil-A, it's not a Subway, right? It's not a franchise. They don't give you the how-to playbook.
Yeah.
But I've got it inside this office.
Right.
I've had it here all along. We're putting it on paper, not on paper, but we're putting it out there digitally now,
Yeah.
So getting them to buy into their intellectual property having true value, it kind of propelled us into this direction.
Yeah, it's awesome. And that's a good reminder to folks is whatever you do, whatever career you choose to go into, we develop that intellectual capital that, that whatever comes easy to us doesn't necessarily come easy to someone else. I remember when I started my coaching business, one of the mentors I had said, John, don't ever undervalue what comes easy to you. So there are things in strategic planning, and you mentioned EOS, and I'm not a licensed EOS person, but very familiar with it, and I've used it with several clients. Those types of things, those types of models come very natural to me, but I've met many a business owner that that's not natural for them, and so you have to look for those things that come natural to you. And that's applaud you for you know finding that and then leaning into it. It's really cool. Um, Tell us, since you mentioned the ugly babies, and that is kind of my passion, is finding and fixing ugly babies. Uh, can you share a story or two of something that in your business, you realize, wow, this isn't working. We need to pivot. We need to make a change. Can you share an example or two of something like that?
Yeah. I mean, we did it a couple times. When we first got into the game, we had a couple drivers, and it was more so we didn't know anything about trucking, right? We were brand new to it. We got out of the lawn landscape world, we got into trucking, and one of the first drivers we had, he's like, "This is the type of truck you need." Boom, 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 and we sank about $500,000 into these semis. And within probably 3 or 4 months, we had sank another 500,000 into them, trying to keep them on the road, fixing them, parts, repairs, that kind of stuff. At that point in time, it was just a monetary game, and we made a quick pivot, quick move, and we went all new equipment and kind of never looked back. And that is a model you have to buy into and you have to go with, and that's it changes your customers, it changes the rate of pay you have to come in to be able to support that new equipment. Changes the mindset of the drivers you want to get, right? You got to have people that'll take care of that new stuff. These are $180,000 assets going down the road. You want to take care of it, right? But it kind of also lifted the company culture of us. It brought a new sense of pride and difference to the company. It was a big turning point for us. Throughout the years, I think transitioning into more of this coaching and consulting and the Linehaul News, Linehaul University, getting our education out there the last year, right? Margins have been hit hard in trucking. And the last, since 22, after the COVID boom, 22 saw record numbers in trucking. Right. Freight rates were at $5 plus a mile on the load boards. I mean, anybody could make money doing it. Since then, squeezed hard. Freight rates have tanked. Truck rates, price of a brand new semi has gone up from, in our 7 years of doing it, it's gone up $70,000. Drivers pay has gone up from, we used to be, when we first got in, we were paying drivers 50 cents a mile. Now it's 85 cents a mile, right? The rate of pay that we're getting paid hasn't gone up near to match those expenses. And so that's where this recent pivot came for us. And it was a hard decision, right? Getting the people to change you went from every day of doing these tasks to now we're going to try to train a whole lot of other people how to do those tasks. That's been the hardest thing for us to overcome. It's been the 6 months, just a mind shift change in our office of what we do, right? We went from being a pure trucking company to now we're a trucking company that trains others, right? We are an educational platform. We are coaches, we are consultants, we are training others to do what we do. That's a hard pill to swallow. It's a big mind shift change. That really was our harvest over thing, but we didn't see another way out, right? You can't go back to FedEx and say, give me more money. You've got an annual contract and it's through next August, and margins kept getting squeezed and squeezed. And we're considered one of the premier contractors in the area. We're pretty well respected for what we do. But we had to find another way to keep making money. We went to hit the numbers we wanted to hit to make it worth our while. We had to make a pivot, had to make a big change. Our baby was getting ugly, right? And it'll get good again, right? Everything goes in cycles. But right now we're getting squeezed, and so right now we're looking kind of ugly.
Well, it's great that you're aware, because a lot of business owners just stick their head in the sand and hope it gets better. That whole thing of doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results. You're not just sitting around waiting for. You're saying we're gonna go on and do something different.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big launch into a whole new field, right?
Mhm.
In the last year, I went from being running a trucking company every day to now I'm doing a lot of phone calls like this where I'm on the other side, right? I just was interviewing the guys from Michelin where we're going over, tread depths and tread patterns to figure out what's the most fuel efficient for contractors, running low weights in their trucks and trailers. Uh, you know, Completely different thing, but spreading that education, spreading that word, it's helped my business, right? I'm sure that when you talk to, I'm not saying me because I'm not the smartest guy out there, but when you talk to good business owners, you take back stuff that you put into your business practice, right? And I do
Yeah.
that every single day. So for
Yeah.
the last year, I've been going out and we've been doing these trade shows where we got one coming up in Miami here next week. A week from today, we'll be in Miami doing it with a regional conference with Linehaul News. We've got the big summit in July, and we get people to come speak and train and educate. And the whole time, I'm trying to set this up. And people keep asking me, "How do you have time to do that? How do you have time to do that?" And I'm like, "Well, this is pretty simple. Every time I talk to someone like you let one thing slip that is the perfect nugget of information that we take back and we improve our business with it.
That's awesome. That is so true.
It's been fun. It's been interesting. Everything we do, the more we give, it seems like the more we get back.
That's great. That's great advice that you just shared. It's funny. You're almost developing. It could almost be a franchise type thing where you could almost become a franchisor. Uh,
You might
just
get me in
throwing an
trouble.
idea out
You
there.
might get me in trouble with FedEx Legal on that one.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know how that works, but it's
Yeah.
almost like, what you're doing, you're getting people, yeah, you're doing the things that FedEx doesn't provide.
So if I can take a few minutes, I'll give you the backstory of it. Right, we nailed it. FedEx can't do that. Right, we were all together several years ago at a big show that's more the P&D based route consultant Spencer Patton. He does a great job, puts on a fantastic event, but it's more the P&D side. John Haldy, my partner on the Linehaul News, and a couple other guys were sitting around and like, this was awesome, but we need it for the Linehaul space. So they created the Linehaul Summit. The first one of that was 2022, about 350 people, pure educational. I learned a ton there. I met a ton of people. It's where I really got to know John. John wanted to blow it up, do it into line haul, what he was calling line haul news, whereas the regional shows, there's a trade pub. We got a Facebook group. It's FedEx ground line haul contractors, probably 1,500, 2,000, somewhere in there. People, it's growing every day. But everything that we're trying to do with that, with line haul university, with the trade pub, it's pure education. It's not sales pitchy. It's not, we tell any vendors coming to these things, 20 vendors coming to Miami, if any of them want to have a speaking part, they can't be selling. We want to train everyone how to do what we do because that playbook isn't out there and people are starving for it, right? I've talked to guys that they'll make $2 million, $3 million investments into this and they have no clue what they're doing. And they think they're buying a franchise, but they're not. So we're trying to build that playbook. There's a lot of good info out there. We created linehauluniversity.com. It is the collection of all the items. It's a bunch of videos that John and I have done with other experts in the business, other TSPs, other vendors, just training people how to be a FedEx contractor.
That's very cool, very impressive. So if you kind of do the old wave a magic wand, a year from now, 2 years from now, what what do you see on the horizon? Is that going to be bigger, badder? What do you think?
It is gaining a lot of traction. I really enjoy it myself. I don't know how much longer I'll actually do the be a FedEx contractor. Our company outside of FedEx, right, when it's kind of saying no when your baby's ugly, our company outside of FedEx is doing very well. We've got some local contracts here that with the spot markets being down, but we serve customers and kind of have a niche market where we've got a lot of trailers, can do some shuttles and stuff. So I don't know how much longer we'll be FedEx contractors. The other flip side of it, I guess, is when I'm trying to do this coaching consulting, I'm almost in direct competition with the guys that I'm trying to help. And it makes it a little hairy for me at times.
Yeah.
So I think the next year, I don't, we'll see where it takes us. I really, all this training and education and stuff, it's really going well. It's taken off. It's been a lot of fun. I'll probably keep going on that avenue just because it is personally rewarding for me.
Yeah.
If we can ever make it to where it pays the bills, we'll probably let the FedEx companies go. But, right now they still keep the lights on.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that turns. But,
I can relate to that part. Yeah.
Yeah. My brother and I we've gotten into some real estate transactions. We actually just fired up a freight brokerage company. So, that's kind of taken off and budding off pretty well. So hard saying where 2024 will land as it looks right now. My top projects are the coaching and consulting and the linehaul news company, Halty Tech Services and linehaul news, and after that it's the outside company, and really I'm looking for that next opportunity. I'm seeing what else is out there.
Well, that's awesome. And for those listening, I mean, this is why I referred to you as a serial entrepreneur at the beginning. You listed about 7 different entities there in one breath. So that's
we actually just did a big split in our office. We kind of brought, and I should have said that. You want to talk about an ugly training point, right? For the last several years, we started with one entity, right? And it's grown to, I think we now have 9 that we're doing the management of. And so we kind of built one management company where everybody was just paying a chunk into.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to where there was so much going on that we didn't feel like everybody could keep up, right? Everybody had too many balls up in the air, and it was hard to juggle. So again, kind of with this transition to this year with these guys, I said they were going to more of a using their IP. We kind of split the office also, and we put these guys are working with FedEx companies. Our FedEx entities, it's kind of weeds, but dedicated routes, they kind of run like clockwork.
Right.
So not a lot of operational management, but we're using their intellectual property to try to make money in some other ways. We took our other whole half of the office, 20 people else, and they're running our outside of FedEx show now, just to try to focus, to bring that back to life. I think that is one of the problems that entrepreneurs kind of face, or that they create for themselves, is I like saying yes. I don't like saying right. But it's kind of hard to keep up with. Not everybody's wired that way, right? You pointed that out early, that so knowing the limits, knowing the capacity, that's what EOS, it's a big term in EOS, is capacity. Knowing capacity is a big thing for to get success. So that's what we're looking for at 24, is a little bit more stability, and a little more staying in and not stretching that capacity too thin.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, man, I could talk to you, I think, for hours on here, but I try to keep this to right. We're past 20 minutes, which is what I normally budget on the high side, but I'm enjoying this. Just one, if you could give one piece of advice to that young person out there who's, like you were when you were, coming out of college or coming out of high school, and is part of that 80% that dream of, being an entrepreneur, what piece of advice would you give for them?
My brother and I partnered with other entrepreneurs very early. We didn't have the capital to do what we were doing, but we didn't just want to get any capital. We wanted to get smart capital. So we found other individuals, a gentleman who's in his 70s, now in his 80s, but he gave us more than just money. He gave us more than investment. He gave us some of his wisdom. He gave us a lot of his training, a lot of his guidance. That was big. Having someone that, you had a shared vision with. We both believed that this FedEx entity could take off and do what we did. But having someone else there to partner with, right? My brother and I were lucky that we had each other to bounce ideas off of, but also having that kind of that seasoned veteran there. And so I think a lot of people dream of being an entrepreneur, of going out and doing their own thing. I see it that way also, but I like having partners with it. I wouldn't be afraid to partner with someone who can help get you there quicker. I think that people who try to do things on their own usually get passed up by the pack at some point.
Yeah. What's that old proverb about? If you want to get good efficiently, go alone. If you want to go, I've already messed it up. Forget it. Might want to edit that out. I blew it. But there's a great statement about going alone versus going as a team.
Yeah.
And that's well, that was some great advice. So David, thank you so much. I mean, you're got a great business. It was just fun meeting you and talking and hearing your story. And I know folks are going to enjoy hearing it as well. So um, if people want to learn more about you or reach out to you, how's the best way of getting in touch with you?
Yeah, it's probably David at well, it's a couple of them. David at truetransportinc.com or David at haldytech.com, either one of them.
Okay.
And we can put those out there, put it in the comments or whatever if we want to. So I'm fine with that. I'd love to, anybody that's looking to get into this FedEx game, that's what we're here. That's what we're trying to do. If you want to learn more about it, we've got ways to train and ways to educate.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, it's been great talking to you, great meeting you, and really enjoyed it. And for the listeners, I hope they got something great out of this. I know they did, and look forward to seeing you on the next podcast. For now, we're signing off.